Hi.
Hi, so my name is Tay Sconyers. I'm an artistic associate with PAC. Today we're doing another episode of What Are You Up To? And we have a very special guest with us today, Victoria Goins. Thank you
Hey,
so much
everybody.
for being here. She's an amazing artist, singer, performer, actress, not only on stage, also in film, director, doula, right? As
Yeah,
well?
I am a doula. Yeah, that's like my little passion project.
Amazing. We have her on today as a guest for What Are You Up To? Usually PAC sits down with artists that we've worked with in the past and we ask them how they're handling the pandemic. Obviously, this is a very interesting, to say the least, time in our country. We're dealing not only with the pandemic, but a movement, a resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement against police brutality and all the injustices and violence against Black people in this country. It's a very hard time in our country, not only dealing with the pandemic, but we also have a country that is in civil unrest, and we are trying our best to move forward and amplify the voices of Black artists. So we really appreciate you, Victoria, for being here with us with everything that is going on in this country. We at PAC really, really appreciate you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you asking me to do this. I'm excited.
We are very excited. If you recognize Victoria, that makes sense. She's been in so many theater companies in the Philly area, Azuka, Theater Horizon, many other theater companies.
And PAC.
But you may have also seen her in our 2018 spring production of Mariah Martin.
That was such a fun, play to be in. Just shout out to Charlotte Northeast and Damon and Dan Hodge. I mean, and just like everyone who was a part of that cast and touched that production, we had so much fun.
Was there anything that you were looking forward to or that you had planned on working on that the pandemic kind of shut it down? Or,
yeah. I was aging the niceties with Casey McMillan was directing it. Got into that place of we had the show was up, the actors were blocked, they were working, we were working, and then we got pulled into the room one day and told, hey, like we're not moving forward. Luckily they were in a place where they were like, we're going to do the show again, and invited everyone back on, and but that was what I was working on before outside shut down. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I personally did not think it was going to be as bad because we had people in leadership telling us that it wasn't going to be that bad. What was it like when you finally felt, or the moment you realized, like, wow, this is serious, especially for the theater community, which seems to have hit us in a totally different way?
Okay, I really didn't think that it was going to be this bad either. I was shooting a TV show, and they called everybody in, and it was like, a bunch of people, and they were like, look, stay off your phones if you can, just focus on today, be extra cautious, but let's not worry because there's nothing we can do yet. And then I feel like, time is just non-existent to me at this point, but I feel like it was just a couple days later when I was at rehearsal for the niceties, and we got the conversation of like, it's done. And that moment was kind of, whoa, but that initial moment was just what is happening. And I was kind of in shock. I figured we would have to deal with it in our country.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that it was going to shake up our industry so bad, for sure. And cancel season.
We have done a great job of trying to stay connected with each other, even though, we're so far apart. And I've seen a lot of things online. I've seen a couple of things that you've done, actually. I know that you did like a directing workshop.
Yeah, I directed a workshop with Directors Gathering. First of all, that's dope that they're still continuing to educate during this time, right? Because if there's anything that we can do during this quarantine for our craft, it is to come back to the table and remind ourselves what our craft is and refine it and take some of the time to work on our craft that we don't necessarily get when we're working. I directed for the Going Viral Festival. Also just like a way to like, wow, like we can do theater, like we can perform, we can have fun still, we can play. As devastating as it's been, I hope that, you know, for folks who love what they do, that it's also been an opportunity to explore, because that's all we can do in the quiet. That's all we can do, you know, is try to stick together and explore together some more, hopefully in ways that we weren't able to before this happened.
It seems like so many people are making themselves known and making their voices heard, and it's so important. We're dealing with the pandemic. We're dealing with the emotional and traumatic experience of what is going on in this country.
Yeah.
How, not to ask how are you, because I think that that question is kind of everything. But how is your spirit and your mind and your body? How are you coping with all of this?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you, Tay. In times like this, I have to make a more conscious effort of taking care of myself and my soul and my spirit. I don't watch traumatic images. I don't watch traumatic imagery. I think that the spreading of traumatic imagery, unfortunately, apparently, is necessary in order to get people to listen, right? I say apparently because people are really outraged at this time. Even though this has happened countless times before. I'm in the business of not having my soul crushed, right? And I'm Black, so I know, right? I don't have to re-explain death and oppression and injustice to myself. So that's one of the biggest ways I take care of myself. I'm in constant conversation with people that I love that also look like me, because that's who I'm really concerned of taking care of right now. Just asking myself, how can I be better? And after the protest, what are the next steps? And to me, the next steps for me and where I fit in is making sure that youth that looks like us understand that they have so much to live for. What we have to talk about on a political level is the death or the destruction of Black and brown bodies. But what I think we need to talk about as Black people on a communal level is, how do we recover, and how do we help these babies who are watching this on TV, watching themselves be hurt and murdered on TV and on their phones? That right there is where the progression is. Like, I have to feel like the actual lives that are affected are being touched, not that people are just changing laws because now they know something is wrong.
I've gone through this before with Trayvon Martin, and it just kept, that was like big awareness for people. Right. This is wrong. And then it kept happening. Sometimes it was addressed. Sometimes it was ignored, but never ignored for us, right? Because it's like we know, and now it's like so many people are on board. It's complicated. It's really complicated emotionally.
Yeah. It is very complicated. And my question to the folks who possibly care more now, like my question to them is, why does this situation seem more wrong to you, right? Because what we can't stop at is just feeling this way when the destruction is so obvious, right? Because like, that's what Black people are always combating, is like the questions that follow after we're dead. Well, what were you doing before? And why did you get put in this situation? And I'm like sick of those questions, right? Like I'm honestly sick of the conversations about those questions. I'm sick of all of that. To me, that's all irrelevant. My sole question for them is like, why was it so not okay this time? And what about the last times were you able to ignore that you couldn't ignore this time? And were they really different? That's where my fear for that after this active participation of like, I said something, I did something, I wasn't silent, that will be enough for you to stop seeing again. Because I've lived with the repetition, and this is your first awakening.
There's also that question of like white people or other non-Black people of color people who are able to kind of take a break from all of this, or like they're able to come out and it's strong, and then they kind of like, where did they go? You know what I mean?
Where did they go? Right.
We don't have the privilege to be able to do that. It's still affecting us, and it's still going to continue to affect
the effects of racism and what that does to our psyche. And that's what I'm like really concerned about healing. I personally just don't think we have to look to white people to make life better, right? Because like dealing with life and dealing with you and dealing with your community, we can do that stuff. Where I have committed for myself is like, I'm giving myself 6 months to a year after we get to our green phase to create this community. I would love for it to be a community of artists, Black artists, Black and brown, Black and Hispanic artists who want to work within their communities to teach via art and heal through discussions on history and what you're going through now, but for like for the babies, for the youth.
Self-care and like taking care of you mentally and spiritually is so important, especially now. What brings you joy right now?
Today was the first time I've been outside in a week, and it was to run, which is an activity that I've kind of picked up during quarantine. This is funny that I run now, Tay, because I told my fiance when we first started dating, I don't sweat. I don't participate in activities that make me sweat.
Love it.
I never thought that I would enjoy running, like genuinely. I've never been on a sports team. I'm like not an athletic person in my opinion. And I always thought that something like running was something people did to either like torture themselves or to like to be a better athlete, right?
Sure.
I love it. I want people to come running with me. Like if you're a runner and you like want to come running, because that is a socially distant activity that we can all participate in. Come join, because I've seen changes in my mood. I've seen like changes in how I feel about myself. And for me, running has just been a metaphor for life. So, like push yourself. I hate to go on a tangent about running, but I swear to you, it has made me so happy that I'm going to. And for people like people who were like me, looking at the screens like running, really?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the first time I ran, the goal was run 20 minutes. Doesn't matter how fast you go, just run. Just keep running for 20 minutes. Don't stop. And I stopped it. I stopped in 10 minutes. And
10 to me is like, yeah.
Right. Second time I ran, I was running. I'm going. And I get that same feeling again, like, oh God, I'm going to vomit. I can't do this. But I'm not going to stop. So I kept running. Tay, I kid you not. I threw up. I threw up. I was trying. Yes, I threw up. I was trying so hard to like not. My fiance literally, he was running like a little bit ahead of me. He turned around at the and literally saw me.
Oh my God.
And he comes over, he's patting my back, and I'm like, I didn't stop. And I got up, cleaned myself up a bit, and I was like, wow, I could keep going.
Yeah.
I've not thrown up on a run since. Yeah. So I tell the story about running to be like, yeah, it does sound awful, and it may be awful when you first start, but the benefits are I feel incredible. And mentally I've been able to like meditate. Like that means I'm also able to meditate for 30 minutes. Hello. Okay.
Oh, hello.
So his name is Garvey.
Garvey. Oh, so
yeah,
cute.
Let's see. This is Garvey.
My God. You're a baby. Hello. Everyone's gonna love that. You're welcome, everyone. But
yeah, you're welcome. The goal is just keep moving and breathing.
Oh, I love that. You know, you're gonna get so many people like inboxing you or messaging like you, like, hey, can I run with you, Victoria?
Please come running with me. I'm so down.
So we talked a little bit about like a physical activity. Thank you. What is something, because I know you are finding things for yourself artistically to work on as an actor, as a director.
So I've been reading this book by recommendation from a friend. It's called The Artist's Way. I'm sure there are like plenty of people who have maybe possibly read this because it's not like a newer book. It's by Julia Cameron. And it's called A Course in Discovering and Recovering Your Creative Self. So I've been like taking some time to just figure out truly what do I love, like what really brings me joy. And because I think that we are all in a place where we have to really think about the expansion of our art form. What I know has been like really exciting me, like directing has been so much fun.
So can you talk a little bit about your voice as a director?
It's so much about ownership, right? And like claiming ownership, like taking the space. I love comedy. I love comedy. I think comedy is the quickest way to change hearts and minds. Like, you know, because if you can get somebody to laugh at something, you can even disarm people. You can disarm people with comedy. Like comedy is so powerful. And then also the complexities of humanity excite me as a director because Mariah Martin was fun and so stylistic, right? Because it was like so clear what each character was. Mm-hmm. Like it was definitive, you know, the villain was the villain, the damsel was the damsel. But that stuff is exciting and fun in its own way. But what really excites me as a director is like when everybody's a villain in their own right and when everybody is a hero in their own right, because we're all, as humans, we're capable of that entire spectrum.
As a Black woman, do you think that you try to bring all of that into something you direct? Do you seek out certain types of plays, or do you try to separate? Because I feel like you could go either way. Some directors could like really take their own experience and want to say something with their work, or other people could be like, I want to separate myself from this experience and say something that way. So yeah,
that's a really good question. I think what likely happens is like because I am a Black woman, that just ends up seeping through, not by choice or you know, but that it just does. But when I'm directing, I really think about, I always relate it back to what I think the playwright was trying to say, like what the playwright believes the story is. When I think about film and television, right, writers don't, from my understanding, writers don't have that as much of a coveted space as playwrights do in theater.
Do you have any preference versus classical or contemporary?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I like contemporary work, but there's something so juicy about the classics. Like, ooh, there's something so juicy about them because they're so dramatic. Right. You know, like, oh my gosh, like they're so soap opera-y, and like you can't really, like, you don't really find that, you know, now with like the contemporary stuff. Like you see more of the complexities of humanity, I feel like, in the contemporary stuff, but like the drama, the fall, like I feel like that comes that really just comes like easy with the classics. I'm a Libra, so you're gonna notice like when you ask me to choose something, I'm gonna be like, oh, I can't choose. Like I have to just have a perfect balance of both. Yeah.
Sure. can't believe I didn't ask you your zodiac sign. I love that. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it.
Hold on, I'm gonna tell you because I have that little app on my phone.
CoStar.
Yeah,
this video
I have
is
it.
not sponsored by CoStar, but maybe
It is not. Maybe it should. Sun is in Libra. My moon, my ascendant sign is in Taurus.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
And then my moon is in Capricorn.
Cool. Wow.
Isn't that such a combination? That's so crazy.
Airy stuff going on.
That's probably why I can never make a decision. Like my Libra brain is just like even more complex because I have like, what is happening?
I think, Victoria, it's been really fun talking with you about everything you're doing artistically. Thank you for chatting with me about
Thanks for having me.
Situation of our country right now. As artists, I personally feel like we have a responsibility to kind of step up and vocalize and to make ourselves known and to create and to do all of that stuff, especially when it can have an impact. Do you feel like the Philadelphia theater community is doing that, or do you see certain companies that are doing that and appreciate that, or what would you say, I guess, to the people who are in the community, Philadelphia theater community, or support it about our current situation in this country?
I have definitely seen a lot of theater companies taking a solid stance. Mm-hmm. And that is like a really solid and great first step. And by solid stance, I mean they have said, out of their mouths, Black Lives Matter, have sent resources. What I challenge the theater companies to do is to really think about their relationship with artists of color in the future, and that they look at it in the sense of not just like, representation and representation in the form of like, we're going to do a show that has artists of color, but representation is a great start, but what about the empowerment of? Think about those things. If you're not going to act on them yet because you're not really truly sure where you stand, think about that too. Black artists, like we've got Theater in the X, and they're dope. What else are we going to do as Black artists to ensure that our stories not only are being told, but we're actually like seeing the financial gain from the telling of our story.
Thank you so much. I have really enjoyed this conversation.
I've enjoyed talking to you. So you can find me on Facebook, Victoria Goins. Don't message me on there thinking I'm going to get back to you right away, because I won't.
Busy running.
I'm listening. Like social media has taken a major back burner in my life, but you can find me on Facebook.
All right, dope. And look out for Victoria once theater resumes, once we get back up and things are, look out for her acting, directing, changing the theater world, basically. We appreciate you so much, Victoria. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Tay.
Yeah, no problem.